The Queen of Valtherin, Lady Zenara, walked through the long hallway of her warship. Her armor shined like silver fire, her steps heavy and proud. Soldiers bowed as she passed. Slaves moved aside quickly, heads down, afraid to even breathe too loudly. Zenara was not just a queen. She was a warrior, a conqueror, and a symbol of fear. Across 10 star systems, her name made enemies run and planets kneel. But today, something was different. The slaves had just finished their daily inspection. They were lined up, dirty and tired, after working all day in the engine room. Zenara liked to look them over from time to time. It reminded them who ruled them. As she moved down the line, her eyes cold and sharp, every slave looked down, every head stayed low, until she reached him, a tall, broad-shouldered human slave. His skin was dark from the engine smoke, his face bruised, but his back straight. He didn't kneel. He didn't bow. And worst of all, he looked directly into her eyes. Zenara stopped walking. Her guards tensed. The air grew thick. The two locked eyes for 3 long seconds. Then Zenara stepped forward. "You dare look at me," she said, her voice like ice. The man didn't answer. She raised her hand. A guard handed her a shock rod. She pressed it against the human's chest and fired. The man gritted his teeth but didn't scream. Zenara leaned in closer. "What's your name, slave?" He looked at her, eyes steady. Ryan, she repeated. "I will remember it. Next time, I'll burn your eyes out." Ryan didn't move. He just stood there, quiet but unshaken. Zenara turned and walked away, her cape flowing behind her. But inside, something felt wrong. That stare, those eyes, why did they bother her so much? That night, in her private chamber, Zenara sat alone. She poured herself a glass of dark moon wine. Her mind kept going back to that moment. The look in Ryan's eyes was not hate. It was not fear. It was something else. Pity. No. Judgment. Maybe. She didn't like it. She had crushed armies. She had broken generals. She had never been shaken by a single man's stare, especially not a human slave. She stood and opened her wall screen. "Play archive footage," she ordered. The screen lit up with old war videos. Humans fighting, losing, dying, weak, small, always begging, always afraid. But in one video, a human soldier dragged 2 Valtherin elites into a burning tank, saving them. Another clip showed a human child pulling his wounded sister across a battlefield. Again and again, humans doing things they weren't supposed to do. Showing courage, sacrifice, even strength. Zenara narrowed her eyes. Later, she met with the High Oracle, a strange old alien who claimed to see the future. "There is a shadow on your soul, Queen Zenara," the oracle said in a raspy voice. "What shadow?" she asked. "The one who is bound will unbind you. The hand you chained will save your crown." Zenara frowned. "Speak clearly, or don't speak at all." The oracle gave a chilling laugh. "You fear what you don't understand. You mock what may one day rule beside you." Zenara ended the session. Nonsense. But deep inside, her heart beat faster. The next day, a new mission began. A rebel planet had risen in defiance. Zenara prepared for war. She selected her personal guard, and to everyone's surprise, added one name, Ryan. A general asked, "Why him, my queen?" She replied, "Let's see if a slave who dares stare into a queen's eyes can also face death." Later, Ryan stood silently near her warship's control room, holding her energy shield generator like a loyal dog. He never spoke, never moved unless ordered. But Zenara could feel it. That same quiet fire in his eyes. She told herself she hated him, that he was just a slave. But deep down, she felt it coming. Change. And something else she had never known before. Fear. The mission that changed everything. The sky above planet Drexos was on fire. Queen Zenara stood on the edge of the warship's landing platform, staring at the orange clouds that flashed with rebel artillery. Her metal cape flowed behind her. The war drums of Valtheron beat from deep within the ship, steady, powerful, thunderous. But her mind wasn't on the battle. It was on him, the slave, the human. Ryan. He was standing just a few steps behind her, quiet, like always, not speaking unless commanded, not reacting to the hatred in the soldier's eyes. Zenara had chosen him for this mission herself, not because he deserved it, not because he earned her trust, but because something about him challenged her, a human slave with calm eyes and a stubborn spine. That was dangerous, and dangerous things needed to be kept close. Let them burn under her watch. The battle began with fire. Zenara led the charge. Her sword lit the air with blue plasma. Valtheran troops roared behind her as they stormed the rebel outpost. The ground shook. Towers collapsed. Screams echoed. Ryan followed silently, holding the energy shield. It projected a bubble around her whenever enemy blasts came near. He moved quickly, never missing a beat. It was as if he had done this before. Zenara noticed. He wasn't clumsy like the others. His footwork was smooth. He predicted ambushes. Once, he even pulled her behind cover before a sniper round hit. She turned and growled. "That wasn't your job." Ryan simply replied, "Didn't do it for you. I did it so I don't get killed." Zenara's jaw clenched, but she said nothing. The war dragged on for hours. Valtheran forces crushed the outer walls, but deep inside the base, something was wrong. The rebel soldiers fought like they knew something was coming. And they were right. Suddenly, a blinding light exploded from the center of the enemy base. A strange humming filled the air. Zenara's armor flickered. Her sword powered down. Even her comlink went silent. Then came the pain. A hidden energy pulse, alien in design, ripped through the battlefield. Valtheran troops screamed and collapsed. Machines died. And Queen Zenara fell to her knees. Smoke rose from her shoulders. Sparks flew from her armor. Her body trembled. She tried to stand but couldn't. She looked up, struggling to see. One figure was still moving through the smoke, walking toward her. Not an enemy, not a soldier. Ryan. He dropped the burned shield core and rushed to her side. His hands moved fast, pulling off parts of her armor, checking wires, wounds, damage. Zenara tried to push him away. "Don't touch me. You're dying," he said flatly. "You want to argue or live?" Zenara blinked. He lifted her over his shoulder like she weighed nothing. And then he ran, carrying the warrior queen through fire and death. They escaped through a hidden passage inside the rebel base. Ryan had seen the map while fixing a broken console days ago. No one else would have noticed, but he had. The path was long and dark. Zenara groaned in pain. Blood dripped from her back. Her pride was shattered. She, the Queen of Valtheran, was being carried by a human slave. Each step burned her ego, but each breath whispered truth. She needed him. Hours passed. The sounds of war faded behind them. Ryan found a hidden shelter in a canyon. There was no fire, no food, just broken walls and silence. He laid her down on a flat stone. Her skin was pale, lips dry. He looked at her, then reached into a small pack he had hidden in his belt. Zenara weakly lifted her hand. "What are you doing?" "Saving your life," he muttered. He injected her with a small vial of human-made medicine, illegal in Valtheran territory, but it worked. "Where did you get that?" she asked, barely able to speak. "I saved it," Ryan said. "For myself." Zenara stared at him. "And you used it on me?" "I don't need a reason," he said, "but maybe I hate watching things die." She coughed. "You hate me." "I don't hate anyone," he replied. "You're just a part of a broken system." Night fell. Zenara slept and dreamed. She saw her sister, glowing in a garden full of fireflies. Her sister was laughing. Then she pointed to the sky, and it turned red. She whispered, "Don't be like them, Zin. Trust the ones who don't kneel." Zinera woke up, heart pounding. Ryan was outside, sharpening a piece of metal into a blade. His eyes were focused, cold, patient. She spoke without thinking. "You fight like a soldier." He didn't turn. "I was one. Before your people invaded Earth." A long silence passed. Zinera looked at him, truly looked. There were scars on his arms. Not the kind slaves get. The kind warriors carry. "I didn't know," she said quietly. "You never asked." In the silence, Zinera remembered the oracle's words. "The hand you chained will save your crown." She had laughed at the prophecy. Now it lived before her eyes. The next morning, as Rian scouted for food, Zinera stared at her reflection in a cracked screen. Her face was tired, her armor broken, her throne far away. And yet, something new stirred in her chest. Not weakness, but change. Smoke rose from the shattered battlefield behind them. Queen Zinera limped beside the tall human named Ryan, her former slave, now her unexpected savior. Her once shining armor was burned, cracked, and silent. Her crown was gone. Her army, scattered or dead. And her pride, that was bleeding the most. The air on planet Drexos Aya was thick and hot. The forest stretched endlessly, filled with deadly plants, sharp rocks, and a silence that screamed danger. Zinera was not used to walking. She was used to commanding. But now she could barely move without Ryan's help. And she hated it. "Slow down," she growled, breathless. "You told me to keep you alive," Ryan answered calmly, brushing away a thorned branch. "I'm doing that." Zinera stumbled and leaned against a tree. "You talk too much." "And you fall too much," he replied without emotion, but the corner of his mouth twitched, almost like a smile. Zinera noticed. Her eyes narrowed. "Don't get smart with me, human." Ryan simply shrugged and kept walking. They reached a clearing by sunset. A wide stream cut through the land, cold and clean. Ryan checked for traps, made a rough shelter out of broken metal panels and old ship fabric he carried. Zinera watched from a distance, sitting on a log, holding her broken arm. "You act like you've done this before," she muttered. "I have," he said, placing stones around a fire pit. "Earth had jungles too. Just fewer monsters." She tilted her head. "You still talk like a soldier." He stopped moving. His jaw clenched. "I was one," he said, "before your people came." Zinera looked away. The silence between them grew thick again. At night, Ryan sat by the fire, sharpening a spear. Zinera sat inside the shelter, her wounds covered in makeshift bandages. The heat from the flames flickered across her face. She stared at him through the gaps in the cloth. This man, this human, was not what she had been taught. He was not soft, not stupid, not fearful. He was trained, calm, strategic, quiet. Too quiet. "Why didn't you kill me when you had the chance?" she asked. He didn't look at her. "Would you have?" She didn't answer. He finally turned his eyes toward her. "You think saving you was weakness, but you're wrong." Zinera raised an eyebrow. "Then what was it?" "Choice," he said softly. "A weapon can kill, but it's the one who chooses not to, who has power." Suddenly, a high-pitched beep echoed through the trees. Ryan jumped up, grabbing the spear. Zinera's eyes went wide. "A hunter drone." Ryan nodded. "They found us." He scanned the sky. Sure enough, a small Valtheran reconnaissance drone zipped overhead, red lights blinking. Zinera tried to stand. Her leg gave out. Ryan was already at her side, grabbing her arm. "Move now. If it locks your heat signature, they'll fire orbital strikes." Zinera hesitated. "They're my own people." "No," Ryan said coldly. They were your people. Now they call you a traitor. They ran through the jungle, ducking behind trees, splashing through mud. Zenara's body burned with every step. Behind them, the drone beeped louder. Ryan stopped, grabbed a piece of reflective metal from his pack, and tossed it to the left. The drone followed the noise. 10 seconds of silence. Then an explosion rocked the forest. Ryan tackled Zenara behind a boulder as fire filled the sky. "You led it away," she whispered, "with a decoy." Ryan breathed hard. That's what you do when you want someone to survive. By morning, they had traveled deep into a canyon. There, hidden in the rocks, was an old crashed Valtheran scout ship, rusted, forgotten. Zenara looked at it, shocked. "How do you know this place?" Ryan said nothing at first. Then he stepped inside, walked to a corner, and opened a hidden panel. Inside was a small metal box. He pulled it out and showed her something she never expected to see. A glowing necklace, royal, ancient, shaped like a crescent moon. Zenara's breath caught. "That's impossible. I found it 10 years ago," Ryan said. "The last time I was on Drexos, it was on a woman. She was dying." Zenara stepped forward slowly. Her fingers shook. "Describe her." "Tall, silver hair, voice like yours. She gave me this before she died." Zenara felt the world tilt. "That was my sister," she whispered. Ryan nodded. "She saved me. From your soldiers." Tears welled in Zenara's eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. Valtheran queens don't cry. But her heart pounded. Her sister had trusted a human, and now she had too. Back at the shelter, Zenara sat silently, holding the necklace. She remembered her sister's final words before she left for war. "If we keep seeing humans as animals, we'll become animals ourselves." Zenara had laughed then. She wasn't laughing now. That night, as Zenara tried to sleep, she heard a voice on the wind. The oracle's words again. "The hand you chained will save your crown." And now, she understood. The next morning, Ryan stood ready to move again. He had tracked more drones circling nearby. But before they left, Zenara did something no queen had done in centuries. She placed a hand on Ryan's shoulder. "Thank you," she said quietly. He looked surprised, but nodded. For the first time, they walked together. Not as queen and slave, but as two warriors, side by side, truths buried in blood. Queen Zenara walked in silence. The forest around her buzzed with strange life, alien insects, whispering trees, and glowing roots that pulsed under the ground like veins. But she noticed none of it. Her mind was full of ghosts. Her sister's necklace lay heavy in her pocket, as if it carried not just metal, but memory. She kept glancing at Ryan, the human who had once been her slave, the man who now walked just a step ahead, guiding her through the wild. Zenara had trained her whole life to rule, to crush, to fear nothing. But now, she feared the truth, and Ryan held more of it than she ever guessed. They stopped by an old waterfall hidden behind vines. Water splashed over black stones, a good place to rest. Ryan knelt and began collecting herbs. "Your arm's infected," he said without looking up. Zenara sat on a rock. "I've had worse." "You'll lose it if we don't treat it," he replied, crushing a green leaf between two stones. Zenara watched him. "How do you know these things?" she asked. Ryan didn't answer at first. Then finally he said, "Because I used to fight your kind, and I used to heal my own." Zenara leaned back, wincing as he placed the crushed herbs on her wound. The sting was sharp, but not worse than the sting inside her chest. "Tell me about my sister," she said softly. Ryan looked at her, surprised. "She didn't scream when she died," he said. "She was calm, strong, but angry." "Angry at what?" "At you," Ryan said honestly. "She said Valtheran was going down the wrong path. She believed peace with humans was possible." Zenara's lips tightened. "She was wrong. They killed her." "No," Ryan said firmly. She was betrayed. By your own generals. Zenara's eyes snapped to his. What did you say? Ryan stood and stepped away. I didn't see it happen, but I heard the communication logs from a stolen transmitter. They gave her false coordinates, left her alone, then sent drones to clean up the body and blame it on humans. Zenara rose, staggering slightly. That's a lie. I don't lie, Ryan said. Not about this. Why would they do that? She demanded. Because she wanted change, Ryan replied. She spoke up in secret meetings. She wanted to stop the slave trade, end the war. Zenara felt her knees weaken. Her sister had fought for peace, and her own people had silenced her. Flashbacks swirled in her mind. Her sister arguing in the royal chamber, her voice rising. Her silence afterward. Her sudden mission to Drexos, alone. The empty funeral. No body returned. It all made sense now. Too much sense. Zenara's fingers curled into fists. Give me the logs, she whispered. I don't have them, Ryan said. I stored them on a stolen beacon. It's buried deep in a crashed freighter. North of here. Take me there. 2 days passed. The jungle became denser. Strange storms rolled overhead, green lightning streaking across the sky. Ryan led the way. Zenara followed, quieter now. Her usual royal arrogance had faded. She was thinking, remembering, burning inside. They reached a cliff overlooking a crater. In the center was a massive, half-buried freighter, rusted, dead, overgrown with moss. Ryan pointed. Down there. They descended slowly, avoiding the toxic vines that wrapped around the wreckage. Inside the freighter, shadows danced across broken walls. Ryan moved confidently. This was my home for 6 months after the invasion. We hid here. We called it the coffin. He pried open a metal panel, reached inside, and pulled out a small black cube, the beacon. Zenara took it in her hands. It hummed to life. A female Valtheron voice filled the room. Commander Kale, confirm the kill. Make it look like a rebel ambush. Queen Zira must not return. Yes, General Vorn. The human is disposable. We'll pin it on his species. Zenara froze. Ryan stepped back. More voices came, clearly Valtheron, high-ranking, laughing about the cover-up, discussing how Zenara would rise to the throne, unaware. The recording ended. The silence that followed was not empty. It was full of rage. Zenara dropped to her knees. Her sister's death. The lies. The throne built on betrayal. Her crown was soaked in innocent blood. And Ryan had carried that secret for 10 years. Why? You could have used this to destroy me, she whispered. I thought about it, Ryan admitted. Zenara looked up. Then why didn't you? Because your sister believed in you, he said. She told me you had good in you, that you were just blind, not evil. Zenara looked away, tears burning her eyes. But they didn't fall. She couldn't cry. Not yet. Not until she made it right. Suddenly, a sharp alarm rang from the cube. Proximity alert, Ryan said. Drones? Zenara asked. No, Ryan said, voice growing tense. Worse. From the shadows outside the ship, glowing red eyes appeared. 3, then 5, then 10. Valtheron Illits. Special assassins. Zenara's former guards. They were here to erase her. Ryan grabbed his spear. Run. Zenara slowly stood, gripping a broken energy blade she had taken from the jungle ruins. No, she said coldly. We fight. For what? Ryan asked. Zenara's eyes burned. For the truth. For justice. For my sister. She stepped forward. And for the first time, for myself. The jungle air held its breath. Queen Zenara stood in the mouth of the broken freighter, a cracked energy blade in her hand, and betrayal burning in her blood. The glowing red eyes of Valtheron Illits moved closer, silent, precise, deadly. They were her people once, her loyal royal guards. Now, they were executioners, sent by the same empire she once served. Ryan stood beside her, his jaw tight, gripping the sharpened spear he had carved by hand. "They're not going to talk," he said. "Just kill." Zinara nodded, "Then let them try." The first elite moved like lightning, spinning through the air, twin daggers aimed at Zinara's throat. She ducked, rolled, and slashed upward. The blade hit. Sparks flew. The elite fell, dead before he touched the ground. The other 9 charged. Ryan stepped into the chaos, fighting with raw skill and speed. His spears struck fast, one throat, then a leg, then a heart. Zinara fought beside him, not ahead, not behind. Beside. She didn't command. She fought. 2 warriors, back to back. The jungle shook with metal and fury. Minutes passed like hours. Bodies fell. Blood sprayed across rusted metal walls. And finally, silence. Zinara dropped to one knee, breathing hard. Her arm trembled. Her leg bled. Ryan limped over, holding his side. 6, he said, panting. "I took 6. Zinara looked around. "I got 4. He smirked. "I'm winning." She laughed. It was the first time she had ever laughed beside a human. But the joy didn't last. Ryan's small tracking device blinked red. "They know we're alive," he said. "They'll send more." Zinara stood, wiping blood from her face. "Then we make a new plan." "No more running?" he asked. She looked at him. "No," she said. "It's time to burn down the lies." 3 days later, a secret meeting took place on the edge of the Valtheran neutral zone. 5 rebel ships hovered above a dying moon, cloaked from the royal fleet. Inside the main cruiser, a mix of humans, aliens, and defected Valtheran soldiers waited in silence. Then the doors opened. Queen Zinara walked in, scared, bruised, and alive. The room gasped. Weapons were raised. Then came Ryan, standing behind her with calm eyes. "Hold," said a voice. An older woman stepped forward. "Admiral Solus, the rebel leader. You have the nerve to walk in here, Queen," she growled. "We buried thousands because of you." Zinara didn't flinch. "I was blind," she said. "But I've seen the truth. My sister was murdered by my own generals, and the Empire is lying to all of you." Laughter echoed. "And we're supposed to believe you." Admiral Solus said, "You enslaved humans for a decade." Zinara reached into her bag and threw the black beacon on the table. "Play it," she said. The room fell silent. The recording echoed through the hall, voices of high Valtheran commanders plotting Zira's death, pinning it on humans, and setting Zinara up as their puppet queen. Gasps filled the room. One human officer whispered, "That's General Vorn." A Valtheran soldier dropped her weapon. "My family served him for generations." Zinara looked at them all. "I didn't come here to beg for forgiveness. I came to offer a deal." Admiral Solus crossed her arms. "What kind of deal?" Zinara stepped forward, her voice clear, royal, but no longer cold. "I'll give you all my access codes, royal channels, hidden fleet maps. You want to destroy the Empire? I'll help you." Solus narrowed her eyes. "And what do you want?" Zinara looked at Ryan, then turned back. "I want to destroy the men who killed my sister." The room stood quiet for a long time. Then Solus gave a slow nod. "Welcome to the rebellion, Queen." Later that night, Ryan stood on the moon's balcony, looking at the stars. Zinara joined him. "You didn't have to come with me," she said. Ryan didn't look at her, didn't have anywhere else to go. She smiled softly. "You're lying. You stayed to watch if I'd keep my word." He shrugged. "I used to think power was fear," Zinara said. "Make people kneel. Make them obey. And now, I think power is truth." She paused. then did something no one in Valtheron history had ever seen. She removed the royal crest from her shoulder and dropped it. I am no longer Queen of Valtheron. Ryan looked at her, surprised. Then who are you? She stepped closer. I'm Zenara, daughter of Zira, friend of Rian, and enemy of lies. Suddenly, alarms blared across the rebel base. Incoming transmission. Someone yelled. Royal Empire Isagineo. Zenara and Ryan rushed inside. The screen blinked to life. A hologram of General Vorn appeared, his face calm, smug, confident. Zenara, he said, you've made quite a mess. We offered you a crown, and you spat on it. You murdered my sister, she snapped. She was weak. Vorn replied. You were strong. Until now. He leaned closer to the camera. I hope you enjoy your little rebellion. Because in 12 hours, we burned that moon to ash. The signal cut. Chaos broke out in the command center. Solus turned to Zenara. We can't outrun their fleet. Zenara's eyes narrowed. No, she said. We fight. 12 hours. That's how long they had. 12 hours until the Royal Empire's fleet arrived. 12 hours before fire rained from the skies and burned everything on the rebel moon to dust. Inside the underground command base, tension gripped every corner. Humans, Valtheron defectors, alien allies, once divided, now stood together. Old enemies, now brothers and sisters in survival. And at the center of it all stood Zenara, no longer a queen, but something more. She stood before the council table, her armor stripped of royal colors. Her voice was steady, but her heart raced. I studied their playbook, she said. I know how Vorn thinks. He'll send a heavy cruiser first, test our strength before the full fleet jumps in. Then we strike first. Admiral Solus asked. Zenara shook her head. No, we let them think they've won. The room went quiet. She tapped a screen, revealing a map of the moon. This base sits on ancient mining tunnels. We'll hide our forces below. When the cruiser lands, we ambush. Small forces, fast attacks, cut their communication tower. And the fleet? Asked a human tech. Zenara looked at Ryan, who had just stepped in. That's where he comes in. Everyone turned. Ryan placed a data core on the table. 10 years ago, I hacked a dormant defense grid buried under this moon, he said. Forgotten tech from a lost alien war. Valtheron never found it because they never looked down. Zenara smiled. Humans always see what we miss. He continued. If we can power it up and sync it with the core reactor, we can fire a concentrated blast at the flagship. Just once. That blast would be enough to blind the fleet, Zenara added. They'll retreat. The rebellion lives. And so, the preparations began. Ryan led the engineers into the tunnels, fixing old wires, reactivating ancient machines. Zenara walked among the fighters, helping, training, encouraging. She wasn't wearing a crown, but they followed her. Not because they had to, because they chose to. Because now, she was one of them. Night came. The moon's twin suns vanished behind thick clouds. The stars above blinked nervously, as if warning them. Zenara sat alone for a moment, outside the command tent. The cool wind brushed her face. The necklace of her sister, Zira, hung around her neck. So much had changed. She remembered her first meeting with Ryan, the defiant eyes of a human slave. And now, he stepped beside her quietly. Can't sleep, he asked. She shook her head. Are you afraid? He asked. She looked up at the stars. Yes, but not for me. For them. I brought them here. I led them. Ryan sat beside her. Then lead them through this too. He held out a piece of dark cloth, her old royal armband. She looked at it, then tied it around her hand, not to show power, but remembrance. Just before dawn, the alarm screamed. The Empire had arrived. A shadow fell over the moon as a giant cruiser broke through the atmosphere. Dark, massive, armed to the teeth. Valthuran war horns echoed across the land. Zenera stood at the front of the underground ramp. All around her, soldiers, rebels, humans, aliens, waited in silence. She raised her hand, then whispered, "Now." Explosions ripped through the landing zone. Dozens of rebels stormed out of hidden caves, firing energy blasters, throwing shock grenades. The Empire was caught off guard. Ryan rushed through the tunnel network, connecting wires, activating the ancient defense grid. Sparks flew. Machines groaned back to life. Above ground, Zenera charged with her blade drawn. Her movements were faster, fiercer, like a storm made flesh. She found General Vorn's personal elite near the communication tower and tore through them without mercy. "You killed Zira," she shouted. The last elite smirked. She was weak. Zenera's blade pierced his chest. "She was stronger than all of you." In the control chamber below, Ryan finally connected the last conduit. A low hum filled the room. The alien core glowed. "Zenera," he called through the comms. "Target the flagship." She climbed a destroyed watchtower and aimed the targeting device toward the black ship above. It hovered there, just beginning to fire. Too late. "Now," she yelled. A beam of brilliant white light shot from the heart of the moon. It pierced the sky. It struck the Empire's flagship. There was no explosion, just a flash so bright the world turned white. And then silence. When vision returned, the flagship was dead. No lights, no motion, no commands. Inside the Empire fleet, chaos broke out. Without command, the other ships turned, retreating, warping away. They had lost. Zenera dropped to her knees, heart pounding. It was over. They had won. The battlefield was quiet. The survivors gathered. Cheers broke out across the moon. Rebel flags were raised. People hugged. Some cried. Some just stared at the sky, not believing it. Zenera stood in the center, exhausted, bloodied, alive. Ryan walked to her. She looked at him. "No crown, no throne," she said, "but still standing." He smiled. "You were never stronger." A few hours later, on the highest platform of the rebel moon, leaders gathered. Admiral Solis turned to the crowd. "We stand free today, not just because of machines or weapons, but because a former queen chose to break the change she once helped create." She looked at Zenera. The crowd turned too. Zenera stepped forward. She didn't raise her hand. She just spoke. "No more empires. No more masters. No more lies. We fight together now, as equals." The crowd erupted. But Zenera turned and looked only at Ryan. He nodded. And for the first time since her sister's death, she felt peace. Final scene. Later that night, Zenera and Ryan stood together at the edge of the platform, watching stars drift by. "What will you do now?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "I'll keep fighting. But this time, not to rule, to protect." "And me?" he asked. She looked at him. "You'll be by my side, not as a slave, not as a soldier, as my equal." He smiled. And for the first time, they reached out, not as enemy and master, but as partners. The war isn't over. Peace. It was a strange thing. After years of war, betrayal, and blood, the silence felt louder than a battlefield. Queen Zenera, no longer a queen, but a leader of the Free Stars, stood in the rebel council chamber, surrounded by a new flag, black and silver, with a human hand and a Valthuran blade crossed in unity. 1 month had passed since the moon battle, and already the galaxy was changing. Valthuran officers were defecting. Slave ships were surrendering. New treaties were being signed. Mixed colonies of humans and aliens were blooming across dead planets. Zenera had kept her word. She didn't rule with fear anymore. She led with truth. But deep inside, she knew it was not over. Because peace was never permanent. And the Empire never died that easily. One morning, a young scout rushed into the command center. He was pale, shaking. "Commander Zinara," he said, out of breath. "We found something. In the ruins of the Valtheron Prime Vault." Zinara stood calmly. "Show me." A short while later, she stepped into the dark vault deep below the ruined capital of Valtheron. The walls were cracked, and old statues of former rulers lay shattered. Dust choked the air. The scout led her into a small chamber. Ryan walked behind her, alert as always. In the center of the room was a glass tube. Inside it floated a child. Human, or almost human. Eyes closed, breathing slowly. Wires connected to her spine and skull. "What is this?" Zinara whispered. A damaged AI screen lit up, flickering. "Project Ghostlight. Status: dormant." Ryan stepped forward. They were building a hybrid. Zinara's blood turned cold. She read the ancient file. Her fingers trembled as she scrolled. Project Ghostlight, created under direct command of General Vorn. DNA origin: 47% human/52%, Valtheron/1% unknown. Mental control chip installed. Purpose: activate upon rebellion victory. Destroy all key rebel leaders. Assume throne. Code name: ZIRA-7. Zinara stepped back. "Zira," she whispered. "They used my sister's name." "No," Ryan said slowly. "They used your name." Zinara stared at the child, and something clicked. The face, the bone structure, the silver in the hair. The girl was modeled after her. Suddenly, the child's eyes opened, glowing violet. The room went dark. The AI voice screamed. Awakening triggered. Emergency override failure. Unit ZIRA-7 active. Zinara and Ryan stepped back as the glass cracked and shattered. The child dropped to the ground, kneeling. Then she stood. Her eyes scanned them both. "Target identified," she said in a cold, mechanical voice. Zinara reached for her blade. "Stop. You don't have to do this." "I was made for this," the girl replied. Ryan stepped between them. "You're not a weapon. You're a person." ZIRA-7 tilted her head. "I don't feel like a person." Zinara knelt slowly, hands open. "I was like you once, programmed by others, trained to believe lies. But you can choose." The girl's eyes flickered. Then, tears welled up. "I hear voices in my head. Orders. Every second. I can't shut them off." Ryan moved closer. "Let us help you." But before they could act, the vault began to shake. A hidden transmission had been sent. Dozens of old war machines lit up across the capital. Emergency defense bots activated. Outside, in orbit, a forgotten satellite array came online. The final fail-safe of the Valtheron Empire had been triggered. Chaos. Within minutes, rebel cities were under attack by sleeper bots disguised as repair drones. Explosions rocked the outer moons. Leaders began disappearing, kidnapped by synthetic soldiers hidden for years in deep cover. It wasn't a second war. It was a final command. Zinara rushed to the command room. "Broadcast to all systems," she ordered. "Activate defense plans. Evacuate high-risk zones." Admiral Solis shouted from the console. "They're targeting you. Every copy of your DNA is being hunted." Zinara's blood ran cold. "They want to erase me completely." She turned to Ryan. "We have to go underground." But Ryan was staring at something. On the screen, ZIRA-7 stood in the council chamber, alone, calm, and crying. They rushed back, but found no child. Only a note scratched into the wall. "I don't want to kill. I want to know who I really am. I'm going to find the truth." 2 days later, deep in the shadow systems, ZIRA-7 was spotted boarding a stolen stealth ship, heading into the unknown sectors. No one stopped her. No one could. She disappeared into the void. Zenara stood at the edge of the rebel starport, Ryan beside her. "She's still alive," he said. "She could be dangerous. She could be." Zenara whispered, "Hope." He looked at her. "You think she'll return?" Zenara nodded slowly. "Not as a weapon," she said, "but as a key to something we don't understand yet." Ryan smiled faintly. "You always did like dramatic endings." Zenara turned, her face half in shadow. "This isn't an ending," she said. "It's the beginning of something far bigger." Final shot. A dark planet. Storms flash across a glassy surface. Inside a quiet chamber, hundreds of old stasis pods hum silently. Each one holds a clone. Each one looks like Zenara. And on the far wall, glowing red in ancient alien script, "Long live the true queen. Project Phoenix shall rise."